Hi guys, happy live. I apologize for being so late. We just had a lot of deals that were supposed to close today at 5 and some amendments and so forth. So I just needed to deal with all of those before I came on here with you guys. So I'm going to do my normal. I'm going to do your guys' questions and answers that have come in throughout the week, do some happy news as well as some real estate updates. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. Otherwise, I will blab away. And thank you for those of you that came to our client appreciation party that we had on the weekend. It was lots of fun. So I'm going to dive into the first question just because I'm on a timeline. I still have more places I have to go tonight and present offers. It's a busy time. So hello, Justin. How are you? I'm super late. Okay, first question comes from Jack, and Jack is an Oro. Jack said, how much difference does the material of the outside of a home actually make? Thank you, Jack, for asking. So let's just say, for example, you have stone versus brick, you have siding, stucco, etc. So obviously if you have like the cheaper siding, I've done it before, but if you have like the cheaper siding versus stone, you know, obviously it depends on the square footage of the home, etc. But let's just say, for example, you have board and batten versus stone or board and batten versus brick. If you have two 2,200 square foot homes and the inside are identical and what have you, they're not really going to give you much. Like somebody might say, hey, I'll give you 20,000 more for the stone one than I will just the brick one, but there's not really a set number, to be honest. And if it was like board and batten, there's more expensive type, and the name is escaping me right now, but it's known, Malbec, and it has like a 50-year warranty or something. If it was like that versus a stone and a brick, it would probably be the same anyway. So if you're pricing things out, and one was 20,000, one was 60,000, one was 80,000. As long as the 20,000 is not just like typical siding, then I would do the cheaper of the two, because it's really not going to make a price difference inside. But if it's not even the cheap siding, it's 20,000, I would definitely go with that one. But feel free to reach out if you have specifics, and I can give you more detail if I knew the area, the square footage of the home, etc. Because you don't want to overdo it. So let's just say you're a semi-detached home in a not so great area of Midland or Aurelia or Barrie or what have you. It doesn't matter what you put on it, you're still in that area and you're still semi-detached. So that's that. Justin said hopefully Jane isn't watching. We had a grumpier lady early today. So the first bit of happy news comes from, well, at first it wasn't happy. It was a 80-year-old and his rent went up $400 a month. And so he's like, what am I going to do? And he decided I'm going to go back to work, even though he had already retired. He was a janitor at a high school. So when all these high school kids are like, you know, hey, how come this guy that could be my great-grandpa is back here working? And they found out his story. They started a GoFundMe for him. And their goal was within a week to get $10,000, which they ended up getting in 12 hours. And they ended up raising over $270,000 US for this 80-year-old. And obviously he was then able to retire again. So that's great. I always love that. Next question comes from Lindsay, and Lindsay is in Guildford. Lindsay said, I really want to turn my third bedroom into a walk-in closet, but know it's harder to sell. How much do you think it would bring down my home value if I did so? There's no set thing, Lindsay, and I know Justin's going to laugh at me for saying that, but I'm so literal, he makes fun of me. So there's no set thing. I personally have bought two-bedroom homes in the past, and so there are still people that will buy a two-bedroom home. I've also changed garages into living space, which is also not super great on resale, but people will still buy those homes. And also if, for example, you keep the door on the outside. So let's just say you're walking down the hallway and there's 3 doors, and one's to the master, and you're going to turn the second one into a walk-in closet. I would just keep the door on the one side, drywall the inside so that part doesn't look different, and then it's easy if down the road they want to put it back kind of thing. You know, they're not obviously structural walls, hopefully, that you're taking out. And as long as you're not going from a 2-bedroom to a 1-bedroom, somebody will still buy it. But again, it goes off of your square footage and such, but I have done it. So it just depends how long you're going to stay there. If you're only staying there 6 months, doesn't make sense. If you're staying there 6 years, etc., then you might as well do what you want. And if you want a big closet, then have a big closet. But thank you for asking. Next happy news. At first, again, was not happy. And I apologize if I have food in my teeth. I just quickly ate while driving. So say out of like a scary scene of Grey's Anatomy or what have you, you know, a child comes in. So this happened in real life, not Grey's Anatomy. A 20-month-old boy had been down in a pool, in a half-frozen-ish pool for about 5 minutes. Obviously had no pulse. His temperature, body temperature was 23. He had no heartbeat. And this was in a place I've never heard of, but it's Petrolia, and it's just outside of Sarnia. So it's about 3.5 hours from here. And so supposedly he had no heartbeat for 5 minutes already. For 3 hours, they tried to resuscitate him, and he actually came back to life. And now he was then transferred to sick kids, and now it's been about 3 weeks and so forth. So I just like that. Obviously, it's a happy story. Not happy at the beginning, but happy that they didn't give up like, oh, we'll try for 10 minutes and then he's gone. Like they tried for 3 hours. Nurses on and off, like switching and rotating, trying to resuscitate him and do CPR and all that kind of stuff. And they did get him back. So as a little boy, it was so cute, and obviously we just want him to be safe. And I'm sure his family is super happy. He was at daycare at the time that it happened, so that's super scary. But anyways, he did live, so I liked it. I know I was not happy at the beginning, but next question comes from Mallory, and Mallory is in Hillsdale. So Mallory says, I renovated my bathroom last year and the kitchen the year before. This year I have enough funds to renovate my powder room or do a wet bar, but not both. Which do you think I should do and why? Thank you, Mallory, for asking. Obviously, in an ideal world, if you could do them both, I'd say do them both. If you could like budget it and what have you. But if you are already a budgeter and you still can't do it, then I would do the wet bar. Just because wet bar to me seems like a bigger space, etc. You're doing a counter, you're doing some, underneath cabinets, maybe some upper open cabinets, etc. Maybe you have it as a wet bar and there's a little sink there, or maybe there's a little fridge, etc. Wine bar, even if you're fancy, a little draft beer thing. Whereas a powder room to me is smaller. And I feel like people can tackle that more. So say you did sell it in a couple of years or something like that. They see the powder room and they're like, oh, that sucks, it's not done. But it's really small, so it's easy for them to tackle. So if I could just give that advice, I'd say to do the wet bar. So thank you for asking. And hopefully you're having a great week so far. The next question is not a question. It's a good news or happy news. And lots of times I tell stories about it's never too late and what have you. So this is another one of those. So there was a man, his name is Jason. He was born in a not so well-off neighborhood of the UK. And he was labeled on the spectrum, or back then autism, or whatever the proper terminology was at that time in the UK. And he didn't speak until he was 11. Then he started to speak. He didn't read or write until his late teens. And basically therapists said he'd always have to live in assisted living and he'd be very low functioning, etc. However, I like that this fellow didn't want to take that as an answer and wanted to keep learning. Now he's 37 and he's actually the youngest professor. He's black, the youngest black professor to ever be a professor at the Cambridge University, which is the most prestigious university in the UK. And so obviously that's amazing. So he obviously started speaking, but he started to ask questions like, why is there war? Why are there homeless people, etc.? And so he told his mom, hey, I want to be a football star. And if I can't be a football star, I want to save the world. So she supported that. And at first he went to school and became a gym teacher, but he started to study at night and he eventually got 2 bachelor's degrees and a PhD. Then he went on to teach sociology. And not only was he, or is he, the youngest black professor at that school, but he's also the youngest professor in general in the United Kingdom, which is awesome, because obviously if he had listened to those therapists and what have you, he would not be where he is today. So love that for him. So next thing is not a question, it is real estate. So jumping into real estate, again, hope you guys are well. Any questions, feel free to ask, and sorry for the major delay in today. It's one of those days. Okay, so real estate. So today is the 1st of March. There is a possible rate hike next week. So a week from today, next Wednesday. A majority of economists say that it'll be the last one. Some economists say it won't even happen. But majority now, about 3/4, are saying that it will happen next week on Wednesday. So we'll have to see. A number of things I'm going to go over tonight. But for example, the first one, I'm sure, I know I've talked about in the past on these, but about the green belt. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So basically, the Greenbelt, there was a certain amount of acres in the Greater Golden Horseshoe that they said, hey, we're going to take away your Greenbelt status, so 7,400 acres, for example, and we're going to replace it with 9,400 acres somewhere farther away, I don't know where. And they said, hey, this used to be protected, this used to be like wildlife land or what have you, conservation authorities, and now we need to build this 1.5 million homes that we have guaranteed to build in the next 10 years. So they're saying, hey, we need this space. But then somebody has done some studies and so forth and said, hey, they don't actually need this space. Without that space, they could have done 2,050,000 properties without touching that space. So a lot of people are upset. And a lot of people that are upset are saying that it was a payoff. So they're saying that Doug Ford told the developers, hey, this land's going to stay as environmentally protected, this land isn't. So getting kickbacks from telling them when it's going to be and where it's going to be, as well as the housing minister, which was Steve Clark. So they think they're getting kickbacks. So there was another report, and it was done by Livable Ontario, and they also agreed with what the other report has said, that there was lots of room to do it beforehand, and there was actually 6 people that stepped down after that bill came out. So the bill that came out, 6 people stepped down and said, hey, this isn't right. There's enough room to do it without touching this environmentally protected land. So they all backed down, kind of like a protest, because they said it was stripping the power of the conservation authority. So 6 people did back down, and one of them was a part of this other study that said, hey, here's the 2,000,005 homes they could have built elsewhere without touching it. So a lot of people are arguing and fighting over that right now. So that bill, by the way, is Bill 229, just as an FYI. So like I said, it says 7,400 acres, and then again, they're saying 9,400 acres will go somewhere else, and they'll protect that, but they're taking away that other protection. So the kickbacks, and the reason they started saying that at first was because Doug Ford's daughter got married, and there were a lot of developers there that they didn't think he should know, or they didn't think they should be at his daughter's wedding, etc. And then they started to basically creep people and find out that they're talking to a lot of developers, and conveniently, who knew about things supposedly. So that is that. What else was I going to talk about? Oh yeah, the housing crisis. So a lot of people just say it's supply. So it's not actually just the supply, it's what is available and how much it is costing. So that is also the housing crisis as well. But getting back to those 1.5 million homes that are said to be built by 2031, it's obvious that we need that, and we probably need more. But a lot of economists are saying, how is it going to be done? When is it going to be done? And where is it going to be done? Because they're not giving exacts to it. They're just like, here's a number, here's a date. And people are like, yay, and cheering. But there's nothing in between to get them to that point. Just like saying, hey, here's your university degree, but not saying anything that's going to happen between when the kid is 5 to get to that point. So that's a problem that a lot of economists and people are saying. So the deputy chief from CMHC, which is a Canadian Mortgage Housing Corporation, he said, although 1.5 million is a good start, he does not think that it is enough. And he also was one that said about just that throwing the number out in the air kind of thing. And he says there's a lot of talk, but no action. So I'll tell you numbers later of how many homes are actually being built every year, that it's not what it needs to be, which is 150,000 homes a year, okay? Okay, so the bigger question is, not only is that 1.5 million homes going to be built, but is that enough homes to be built? So that ruling, or whatever you want to call it, came out February 2022, saying that's how many homes will be built. So again, like I said, that would need 150,000 homes to be built a year. So in 2022, they did start 96,000 homes. However, they were not all finished. In 2021, they did 99,000 that were finished. So they were obviously better in 2021 than they were in 2022. But at the current rate, because they still have leftovers from 2022 to finish, for 2023, they think they're only going to build around 71,545, which obviously then the 3 years in a row has not got that 150,000, which obviously puts us behind for that 1.5 million homes that they're supposed to build in 10 years. So that is not good. A study from CMHC said we need at least 1.85 million homes. And a thing about that study, the one that said, yes, we need at least 1.5, another one saying we need 1.85, is that study did not include them telling about the immigration, that they're planning on 465,000 this year, 485,000 immigrants next year, and 500,000 immigrants the year after. So they're already saying we need 1.85 homes. We're already behind on building the 1.85 homes, plus then obviously that's 1.5 million people almost right there, and that's only in 3 years, not in 10 years. So obviously you can see the snowballing effect and the problem with this. So Steve Clark is the housing minister, and he says he's hopeful. He doesn't say it in quotation marks, but I just said in quotation marks. He's like, we're hopeful that we'll get it done. But again, what is that really doing? So there's another fellow, his name's Brad Bradford, and he is a councilman at the City of Toronto, and he says that basically that the government has no skin in the game, because he's saying, okay, it's great you want to build all these homes and what have you, but he's saying who's going to put the roads in, who's going to put the sewers in, who's going to put the schools in, who's going to put the community centers in, etc., and just saying like, yeah, we're going to do this and we're going to save the day and, you know, vote for us, etc., but who's really going to do everything in the behind the scenes stuff. So they're saying you need to put more skin in the game. So Toronto, in their budget for 2023, is given $2 billion with a B, billion dollars. 146 million of that billion is to go towards housing, and 3.5 is to go towards funding multi-level, like multi-generational homes, etc., about helping people convert to that. So depending who you ask, some people say that's good, some people say it's not fixing the problem. There's a president of a huge development company in Toronto, and he said the main reason he's having issues is because tons of baby boomers who were in the trades have retired, and then tons of young people don't want to go into the trades. So that's where he's finding a big issue. And then he also mentioned a lot of the immigrants coming are not trades. They're, you know, doctors, lawyers, etc. They're not trades. So that is an issue that he's come across. And then basically they guess that to fill this $1.5 million homes to be built in 10 years, they need about an extra 100,000 construction workers, which obviously we currently don't have. So there's a fellow, Richard Lyle, he's the president of Residential Construction Council of Ontario. And he said, we have our targets, we know what our deficiencies are, but now we need a plan. There's no plan. So he's like, what is the plan, basically? He also said the people that are making all these decisions aren't affected if they don't come true. So he just feels like they don't care if they don't come true because they don't affect them. So that can be a problem as well. And then there's another guy, Bill Weeks. So I just like to tell you guys all different people because I don't want you to think it's all just coming from me. These are from other people that are like construction workers that have, you know, 2,000 employees in construction, etc. So Bill Weeks, he's the president and CEO of the Building Industry and Land Development. And he said that the federal government needs to basically help get more skilled laborers from other countries, not just doctors, lawyers, etc., and then have some kind of incentive for young kids like teenagers, tweens, etc., for them to go into the trades. He's saying that's the only way that we'll ever possibly get those 100,000 that is needed or that are needed. And I know that a lot of people have heard that prices have changed a lot since 2022. Obviously, we're in March of 2023, the first day. So whereabouts have they gone to? So basically, they've gone to about August of 2021, okay? Again, prices right now, even though we're in March of 2023, I added an extra word in there. March of 2023, basically the prices are about the same across Canada as August 2021, okay? There is the odd place that is different, but because of the 8 different interest hikes in the 10-month period, that is the main cause of it. But for example, prices in Canada right now are $713,800, which was 17.8% down from March of 2022. Okay, so again, like I said, there's some places that are different. So there's some places that they're back to February prices of 2021, which include Hamilton, Waterloo, Burlington, London, Mississauga, and Ottawa. So that most places are August 2021 prices currently, okay? So in Vancouver and Toronto, obviously, you know, that's a really high price point and usually the top in Canada. So right now, Toronto is in September levels, as is Vancouver. So Toronto's average sales price right now was $1,078,900, and Vancouver's was just over 1.1 at 1.111400. So they are back to September of 2021. Out east, however, so towards the Atlantic, they are doing better than we are in Ontario and in BC, etc. So in St. John's, for example, in January, the average sales price was $316,300, and that was comparable to June of 2022. So not the peak of February, March, etc., April, but still not as bad as September or August of 2021. Again, not bad. It's still way up from 2019, 2018, etc., but they did fare better. Even PI, for example, so the average price in January was $343,600, and that was just like June of 2022 there. And then as well in Halifax, they averaged just under $500,000 for $9,700 to be exact, which is close to their February of 2022. So out east is doing better than we are, as many people from Ontario we've noticed have left and gone out east. So lower prices have obviously brought people out of the woodworks and so forth. So the people that have actually called mortgage brokers, called mortgage agents, etc., to inquire is up 48% from January 2023 from January 2022. So 48% more people have inquired. Doesn't mean that they've all been accepted or approved or anything like that and are purchasing, but 48% more people have inquired. So that's a lot of people. And I forget if it was last week or the week before, I spoke about that woman who had moved to China and left her condo, and then somebody sold it with fake identification. But a couple of more cases have happened again. So what is this obviously? So it's obviously theft, but what specifically is it? Is basically they're stealing somebody's identity and pretending that they have the rights to that home, so the property, etc., the title. So they could have your driver's license, your passport. It could be fake, it could be real, like they just have it. Your social insurance number, your birth certificate, your citizenship, etc. And it is most commonly happening to the elderly or people who rent out their home. Okay, so that's the main thing. Not the main thing, but a case that was known, kind of the first case, was two people. They left, during COVID, they lost their jobs, so they found jobs elsewhere. They left their home, and then they found out that it sold. So that was a big case. A lot of people don't know that title insurance actually helps with this. So they don't just like, hey, here's $800,000 that you lost in your house or whatever, but they do help you with the litigation, so the lawyer's fees, etc., for title insurance. Most people think of title insurance like, hey, my neighbor's fence or shed is on the line, but it actually can help cover with that, with title issues and so forth as well. So that is good. And besides them taking title to your home and faking title to your home and selling it to somebody else, they can also put a line of credit against your home. They could also remortgage your property, etc. So they can do a lot of things. So some things that you should be careful with are, for example, check your mail often. You don't want your mail falling in the wrong hands. If you move, have the address updated right away. And if you are renting out the space, make sure that you check their ID, make sure that you go online and that your house is not for sale, etc. And if you go online, you see your statements regularly. Just if you see anything weird, look into it, because it is happening, unfortunately, more and more around here. And I need to take a breath, but anyways. What else? Oh yeah, if you want to know what happens in the end of those, basically the person gets their home back and the people that bought it get their money back, but it does take a long time. Okay, it's not just like, hey, tomorrow, here's your money back, here's your house back. It does take a long time, and lawyers, again, it is covered under title insurance, but just saying. Okay, so in the past weeks and months, I've talked about foreign buyers. So there was just a study out by CIBC saying that this new foreign buyers tax, stopping them from buying that started January of 2023, is really hurting because of the verbiage in it. So they're saying that the verbiage is not helping. So yes, we need that 1.5 million homes minimum to be built. And a lot of people that are developers, part of them are foreign, or it comes from foreign money, etc. But the verbiage that they're saying is wrong. Is, for example, it says residential. So residential is, obviously a freehold home, a detached home, a townhome, etc. But it also is vacant land. So if there was a big parcel of 100 acres, they were planning on developing it, and anybody in there is foreign buyers, and they were putting in 300,000, somebody else was putting in 300,000, etc. Because obviously, when you're doing that kind of developments, it's millions and millions of dollars. Then now they can't do it. So that's something that's happening. That, hey, we're trying to build these 1.5 million homes, but now you're stopping these foreign buyers who have money. Then how are we going to build these homes for people? So that is something that is being an issue. Also, the term non-Canadian. So you could live here, you could have lived here for, who knows, decades. And if you own 3% or more somewhere else of something, so let's just say your grandpa passed down a house to you and you have a house in Italy or something like that, and you only own 3% of it with like tons of other relatives, you're non-Canadian in their eyes. And then you can't then, buy this house, develop that property, etc. So that is an issue, again, slowing us down when they're trying to get us ahead. Okay? I'm sorry I'm talking so fast, but I do have lots I have to do today after. So basically they made a cluster mess, and they're saying they need to change the verbiage right away if they think that we'll ever get anywhere near close to the 1.5 million homes that needs to happen. What else? Dun, 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 dun. Basically, they're blaming the lack of foreign buyers on the last 3 months and the lack of growth. They thought there'd still be a little bit of growth, not a big amount, anywhere from 0.3 to 0.7, but there was not. So they're blaming that on the lack of foreign buyers, not on the interest rates, okay? So I have questions again. So the next questions, again, if you guys have questions, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, I will just blab away. So next one is from Mary Rose, and Mary Rose is in Barrie. So Mary Rose asked, my sister and I rent and have been here for almost 6 years. The landlord wants to move into our unit and said we can move upstairs, but it's more rent, so we would prefer to live in the basement. Do we have to move? Thank you, Mary Rose, for asking. So I don't know if you guys are on a yearly lease or month to month. So if you're on a yearly lease, that's better, because then they can't kick you out if you're in the middle of the lease, okay? If you're on month to month, unfortunately, if they want to live in the unit, they can move into the unit. They have to give you 60 days from the first of a month. So today is the first. Let's just say they don't tell you till the 3rd. So they have to wait till April 1st. You have all of April, all of May, and then they could move in June 1st. But if you're in the middle of a lease and your lease is till, I don't know, December 2023, then they can't do that notice until then, okay? So hopefully you can work something out with them. I know that sucks, and I apologize you're in that situation, but hopefully that answers your question. Next happy news comes from, again, sometimes it starts out sad, a lady's grandpa passing away. So she was 28 and her grandpa passed at 85, and he had a cat and nobody wanted it. So she said, fine, I'll take it. In the meantime, she broke up with who she was dating. She had to move back into her parents' house in Nova Scotia and Halifax. And she thought, I wonder if there's anybody else that, you know, is elderly that goes into a home or passes away and they have a pet and they have nothing to do with it, kind of thing. So she started this adoption service. And so basically if people go into a home, etc., before they go into the home, they, you know, contact her company, which is nonprofit, by the way. And this is the, you know, my animal, my cat, my this, it hisses, or it loves people, or it loves walks, or whatever it is. And then she matches people up before they go into the home, or if they're terminally ill, etc. And they can even interview the people ahead of time and be like, yeah, I think that's a good family, etc. So I just thought it was cute. She's done it for over 100 people so far, and it's called My Grandpa's Cat. So she named it after her grandpa, and she started on his birthday, his late birthday. So I just thought that was cute. Next question comes from Zach, and Zach is in Barrie. So Zach said, I'm torn between buying an old house and putting my own stamp on it and fixing it up, and on one that's already done. Sorry, I'm torn between buying an old house and putting my own stamp on it and fixing it up, / buying one that's already done so I can focus on other projects. What is smarter from an investor's standpoint? Thank you, Zach, for asking that. Sorry, I was gibberish in reading that. So to be honest, it's all research. So a lot of people think, like, say there's two houses side by side, and there's some people that don't do research. And this one's super renovated, brand new roof, windows, furnace, AC, etc. And it's $800,000. And this one is super old, yellow carpet, outdated, asbestos, formaldehyde, old roof, old furnace, etc., etc. And it's $800,000. Some people don't look at comparables, and they're like, oh, it's outdated. Let me put my own elbow grease into it, get my own sweat equity, etc. But if you don't look at the comparables and you say, hey, it's not worth $800 because this one's $800, so I would just say you need to do your homework, really. If it's worth the sweat equity and you can buy it for $600 and you can do the sweat equity for $75,000, for example, and that's worth $800, why not have that $125,000 in your pocket? If you're buying it at $775 and you have to put $100 into it, it's $875, and you're doing your own sweat equity and you're missing time from work to do it, etc., and you just lost $75,000, that's not worth it. So you just have to do your homework. I know it's probably not the answer you're looking for, but you have to do your homework. Or a realtor can do your homework for you if you are not able to. What else? Another happy story. Not really happy. It is kind of. How long could you live on a bottle of ketchup and some seasoning, garlic seasoning? So there was a fellow, he was from Dominican, and he was in St. Martin, and he went off in his boat and ended up getting lost at sea for 24 days. And again, all he had was a bottle of ketchup and some seasoning. And eventually the Colombian Navy found him, etc. And now Heinz ketchup, they don't even know if it was Heinz, but it was some kind of ketchup. They want to give him a new boat, and with lots of navigation, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if it's just for publicity or a good deed. Obviously, I'm just happy the fellow was found and lived, etc. I don't really care what he ate. But, I mean, 24 days at sea, and he lived, so that was a happy story. Next question comes from Dave, and Dave is in Newmarket. Dave said, why did I have that number wrong? Never mind, I found it. I have the funds to buy a home and have the option of doing two things. One, doing it on my own and renting it out, or two, moving to my girlfriend's house and giving her the funds to help pay down her mortgage. What should I do? Thanks, Dave, for asking. Don't want to cause a fight between you guys. Obviously, I don't know if you guys plan on getting married, etc. But if, for example, you know, she has a home and you buy into that home, and let's just say that home, I'm going to use 800 again because that was the number I used last time. Say that home is 800 now, and in 3 years it's worth 1.1, for example. If so, then you guys made 300,000. Awesome. You split the difference, blah, blah, or split what it went up if you want, if you both put the same in. But if you buy another home for 800,000 and it goes up to 1.1, there's 300,000 there, but there's also 300,000 there. So instead of you guys each having 150, Now there's 300, so you each have 300. So I personally would buy another one. You have somebody else paying your mortgage, paying down your principal, and the house is going up in value, so I would buy another one. That's just me. Okay. Thank you for asking. And then there was a super adorable dog. So, you know, I love puppies. If you don't know, I love puppies. I do, and I call all dogs puppies, even if they're, I don't know, 12, 15, etc. So there was a dog, and he got lost. And, you know, the people posted about him, what have you. But there was actually a shelter, and it had a Ring camera. And at 1:40 in the morning, it got a ring. And they thought somebody dropped off like a bunch of puppies or stray cats or something like that. But it was actually a dog jumping up with his nose, hitting the Ring camera. And it turns out that was the shelter that he was adopted from before. I have no idea how he found it again. He went over 10 miles, which is even more than kilometers, and found it. So I just thought it was cute. The dog was like a mixed shepherd named Bailey. And he found his way back. So eventually went to his owners. Anyways, I hope you guys all have a brilliant evening. Be kind to one another. You never know what the other person is processing. And just make sure you take your time with them. All right? Be safe. Take care. And good night.